Unto our exalted Rupa Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. So we have been reading from the Madhurya Vedantini by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Exposition, a description of the nature of bhakti. And what we have read up to this point has helped us understand that bhakti unto Bhagavan Sri Krishna is the highest attainment for all humanity. Savai Pulsam Pado Dharmo, Tuto Bhakti Dadhota Jay, Ahai Tuki, Apatiyata, the Atma Simplicity. But along with that, we have heard, so I don't need this then? Okay. So that special connection with the Supreme Lord through loving devotion, which is described as the highest engagement for humanity, the perfection actually, and that it is unconditional and it arises without any cause. In other words, bhakti is a special function of the eternally liberated soul. But those of us that are conditioned, how do we acquire bhakti? How do we come to this stage, this mentality, this purified emotional condition of pure love of God, which bhakti is? Well, that we have been hearing. And what we heard in the last number of classes by Chakravarti Thakur is that bhakti is composed of three aspects: Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini. Sandhini being the existence potency, Samvit being knowledge, and Ladini being the pleasure potency of the complete Sarup Shakti, the spiritual energy, and that she is the counterpart or the service aspect of the Vishaya Tattva, Sri Krishna himself. And that Krishna is also composed of this Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini. Somebody's trying to say something here. And I don't care. Oh, that's Nityananda. Okay. But they're two parts of the same whole. And that bhakti is that which engages the living entity and awakens our own dormant propensity to be in a loving relationship with the Lord. And bhakti has the special function of enamoring and controlling the Lord. Bhakti has two aspects: the internal aspect of the spiritual energy, and the external, or I would call it external, but it's the aspect which initiates or gives bhakti to others. Okay? And in this world, that manifestation, that function of giving bhakti to others is the representatives of Bhakti Devi, which are the acharyas, the prophets, the pure devotees, the pure who come to give these beautiful teachings. And we also heard that only by bhakti herself, only by devotion itself, can this most precious gift come. You can't acquire devotion to the Lord by yoga, by austerities, by knowledge, by renunciation, or any other kind of discipline. That bhakti only comes when she herself bestows herself onto us. And so, how do we get that? how do we come to that? And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is now going to explain a few things. He's going to explain how bhakti does not come, and then he's going to explain how it does come. Okay? So, this translation, did we read this one yet? No. At times, certain highly enlightened personalities have also interpreted the word yadrich-cha to mean by awakening of some good fortune. This word yadrich we heard the other day in 2 verses, and it's one of the qualities of bhakti that were described in previous verses, and it means independent or by her own. But it's used many places in connection with bhakti, and here it says sometimes people apply the word the yadricha to be awakening by some good fortune. But if yadrich-cha is interpreted in this way, then bhakti's cause is to be considered. Is it brought about by virtuous deeds, shubha karma? Alternatively, is it caused by the absence of such deeds? First, if we accept that good fortune is awakened by virtuous acts, then bhakti would be subservient to shubha karma. This is contradictory to the self-manifesting nature of bhakti. Therefore, that bhakti is awakened by good fortune arising from shubha karma, this cannot be accepted. Okay, so the first point is that he's reaffirming the idea that bhakti only comes, where are you? Shh. Bhakti only comes by her own will. That unlike other attainments in this universe, like people sometimes desire to attain heavenly planets, to go to Swarga. Sometimes people want to acquire mystic cities or prowess. Sometimes people want to enjoy in this world in different ways. And so they perform pious activity under the guidance of Vedic literature to achieve these ends. But bhakti cannot be attained by these processes. Because if she were, then the previous definitions of saying that she is independent and is self-manifesting only by her will would not be true. Because then there would be some other cause of bhakti. So shubha karma, good acts in this world, this will not bring you bhakti. Second, if we suppose that the cause of bhakti is good fortune arising from the absence of any virtuous action, then the cause of that good fortune becomes indescribable and unknown. Such good fortune having no cause falls into veritable obscurity. How can that which is itself utterly undetermined be the cause of anything else? So in other words, how can good fortune be undetermined, that is undetermined, be the cause of bhakti? So bhakti can't be caused by something that is known or something that is not known. So now Gurudev is going to explain that very complicated verse. Okay? Through the verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, the author, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, has established the self-effulgent nature of bhakti by explaining that the word yadrich-cha is to be interpreted as of one's own accord. So we keep coming back to this word because this was a word defining the nature of bhakti. And again, of one's own accord means independent. In Sridhar Swami's explanation of the word yadrich-cha, as used within the previously mentioned Srimad Bhagavatam verse, beginning, Yadrichaya matkadado, he has written, Yadicchaya kenapi bhagyodayena. The word yadiccha means by the emergence of some good fortune. According to this explanation, to concede that good fortune born of virtuous action is the cause of bhakti would deprive bhakti of her quality of independence, or in other words, of her self-effulgent nature. If the word yadiccha is interpreted to mean awakening from some good fortune, then the question arises, what produces that good fortune? One kind of good fortune is awakened through the performance of shubha karma, pious activity. If pious action is accepted as the answer to this question, then bhakti becomes important to pious action. In that case, bhakti would be tainted by the defect of dependence on karma, and thus her quality of self-effulgence be lost. But all the revealed scriptures disclose that bhakti is self-effulgent. All the shrutis and smritis proclaim bhakti to be composed of eternality, cognizance, and bliss, just as Bhagavan is, and to be a function of the Swarup Shakti. Hence, to consider bhakti dependent and thereby reject her self-effulgent quality is an offense born out of disdain for the statements of Shruti. The second point speaks of this good fortune as being occasioned by any absence of virtuous action. As such, since the cause of its awakening remains unknown, that good fortune cannot be established in any way. How can that which is itself undetermined be the cause of anything else? So here essentially rejecting the idea that anything outside of bhakti itself. Now, he's saying here that Sridhar Swami, who's one of the original Vaishnava commentators on Srimad Bhagavatam and highly revered, he's giving a definition of this word yadicchaya, meaning the emergence of some good fortune. But in this case, it doesn't mean that this good fortune is the cause of bhakti, but bhakti coming itself is the source of that good fortune. See? But what is the source of bhakti coming? That's bhakti herself. So it doesn't contradict the original definition. For some of you who might be a little confused, previously in the previous chapters, or previous verses, there were statements from different scripture that were describing the essential nature of Bhakti Devi. And in them, these qualities of being independent, free from any contamination of matter, fully spiritual, and acting of her own free will, yadicchaya, this has been established in these verses, and we went over them in some detail. And so he is simply reinforcing that previous statement. So now he's going to ask the question, if bhakti is not composed or developed by something that we can do, and thus require bhakti to come into our hearts, then how do we get it? And he asks the question, is bhakti attained by the mercy of Bhagavan? That's a good question. Does God give us bhakti? Does it come from Bhagavan? Here's his verse. Third, if we accept that Bhagavan's mercy is in fact the root cause of bhakti, then a natural desire arises to investigate the cause of that mercy, as well as each successive cause. But still, one will be unable to reach a final conclusion. Hence, in such deliberation, the problem of uncertainty arises. Fourth, if it is accepted that such unconditional or causeless mercy Ahaituki Kripa, of Bhagavan is in fact the cause of the awakening of bhakti, then Bhagavan would appear to be beset with the fault of inequity, since bhakti is not observed universally. Bhagavan is impartial. So, if his Ahaituki Kripa is the cause of bhakti, then that causeless mercy ought to have been bestowed upon everyone. But this is not what we see. Bhakti is not present in everyone. She abides in some and not in others. In that case, it would have to be conceded that Bhagavan's attitude is not equal to all, and is thus tainted by the fault of unfairness or favoritism. But it cannot even be conceived that such a fault can exist in Bhagavan. The following question may arise. Is Bhagavan's giving out punishment to the wicked and protecting his own bhaktas not indicative of inequity or unfairness? In response, it is said that his doing so does not indicate unfairness. Rather, it is his greatest quality. Among the innumerable qualities present in Bhagavan, his intense affection for his devotees, Bhakta Vatsalya, reigns supreme, standing as the monarch of all his qualities. This subject will be analyzed fully in the 8th shower, the 8th chapter of this text. We're only in the beginning of chapter 1. Okay, so now the question, is the reason for getting bhakti coming from the mercy of Bhagavan himself? That would seem reasonable. I mean, it's said that nothing in this universe or anywhere happens, not even a blade of grass moves except by the will of the Lord. So bhakti is his own Shakti. So if the Lord desires to bestow mercy, can't he grant bhakti to us? Wouldn't that be a reasonable cause? But here, Chakravarti Thakur is injecting some doubt about that. Because in this world, we see that only a few people get bhakti. Some get, but many do not. So if Bhagavan is the cause of giving bhakti, then why is it that some get it and some don't? That would mean Bhagavan is showing favoritism. He's showing more favor to this person than to that person. And that would be unequal, and that's not the nature of Bhagavan. He is Sama, he's equally disposed to all living entities. So he says in Bhagavad Gita, what is it? Sarvoham samabhuteshu, that I am equally disposed to all living beings. And yet, we see that he has some favoritism to his devotees. He favors the devas and will fight against the demons. So is this a fault of Bhagavan? No. Actually, this is his ornament. Because he says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye yatamam prapadyante, tangstadaiva bhajamyaham. As you approach me, I reciprocate with you. And so those who approach him with loving devotion in their heart, he automatically will protect and show favoritism to them. If a mother loves her child more than someone else, is that a fault of the mother? It's an ornament of the mother. It's a point of glory of that mother that she has so much love for her child. So if Bhagavan shows special favor to those who approach him with devotion, this is a great quality of his. So now Gurudev is going to explain this verse, review the points. So, he says, if it is said that actually the awakening of this good fortune is due to Bhagavan's mercy, then what is the cause of that mercy? What is the cause of that cause? Since no definite conclusion is arrived at by investigating each successive cause, such an investigation is tainted by the fault of infinite regress. That's a complicated sentence. What it means is that if you try to point to understanding bhakti by this cause or that cause, you always get back to another cause. It's infinite. The cause of this is that. Like, for instance, in your very life, if you look outside, there's a field of plants growing. What's the cause of that field of plants growing? Oh, well, the farmer went out and planted some seeds. Oh, yeah, but then there was some rain, and then there's somebody tilling the ground. And why did the rain come? And where did the seeds come from? Oh, well, the seeds came from another tree, and the rains came from the clouds, and the clouds came from evaporation from the ocean. Why do they fall here and not there? Oh, that's because of Indra. But why did Indra do this? Oh, because of this and that. And this endless chain of karma, cause and effect, it goes infinitely back and back and back and back. Nobody can completely trace the cause of anything in this world. It's infinite regressing backwards, trying to point to some original cause. So what's the cause of Bhagavan's mercy? They're saying, or what's the cause of that cause? You know? Well, the cause of the cause of the cause. He's saying you can't really discover that if you this awakening of bhakti to Bhagavan's mercy, then you have to wonder, why did that mercy come? And it's very difficult to discover. So, but if Bhagavan is accepted as the cause of awakening of that good fortune, it is appropriate to suppose that all living entities would have the good fortune of attaining bhakti, but this is not seen. Some obtain this good fortune and some do not. This conception is therefore based on the assumption that Bhagavan is tainted by the defect of iniquity. So in other words, another problem with saying that God is the cause of bhakti is that, well, then you're saying that God will give it to some people and not give it to others. And that is saying that he shows favoritism, or he's unequal to some and not the same to others. Someone may say that since Bhagavan protects the devotees and slays the demons, he does indeed have the shortcoming of inequity. In response, it is being explained that any inequity observed in Sri Bhagavan's punishing the wicked and protecting his own devotees is not a fault, but rather his greatest ornament. In other words, it is the mark of his most exalted quality. Among all the qualities present in Bhagavan, the quality of affection for his devotees is resplendent above all others. Indeed, even in the slaying of demons, Bhagavan manifests his immense mercy to them. This is because, as the inevitable result of their malevolence to Bhagavan and his devotees, their souls would normally be cast into hell and the like, where they would perpetually experience severe agonies and would not be able to obtain bhakti. Therefore, on the pretext of slaying the demons, Bhagavan shows even them unlimited compassion, mercifully granting them liberation, mukti, which is extremely rare even for the yogis. The eighth shower of this holy text specifically analyzes this subject. Well, I think rather than go on in this, we'll just discuss a little bit of what this is all about, because I suspect that this is rather confusing for our regular devotees, what to speak of people that are coming for the first time or irregularly. our society, our Krishna consciousness society, and indeed the original purpose of Vedic culture in India, real India, ancient India, was designed to allow all humanity, all persons, to come to the topmost stage of happiness and perfection by realizing their eternal relationship with God. This is the actual aim and object of human life. That this material world, which we are all entrapped in, is actually not our home. This is not where we are meant to be. We are meant to be in the spiritual realm. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. And in the history of the entire world, very few cultures in that history understood this principle. And the one culture that understood this principle more than any other in the history of the entire universe is actually in India. And the knowledge of our spiritual nature and the knowledge of how to achieve perfection was recorded in very special literature called the Vedas. And the Vedas have many different divisions, and there are many different kinds of instructions in them because they contain all knowledge. But within them are very special, specific instruction on how to reawaken the natural condition of our soul. That natural condition is love between us and God, and thus love between us and all other living beings. And that natural condition is called bhakti, loving devotion to the Lord and to all of his created beings. And so the Krishna consciousness movement, manifested in this current day, has a process to awaken that. And in this temple, this mat, we do that. Every Sunday we're giving classes, every morning we're giving classes, every evening, doing bhajans, teaching people how to live in their life very happily and very simply. And the easiest thing that you can do, if you want to improve your life and become more happy, is to take up the Juga Dharma. We were talking about Savai Pung Sang Paro Dharma, which is the highest activity for the living being. That can be accomplished by this simple chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is a personal meditation that exists between you and God. It can be done in the privacy of your own home, by yourself, or it can be done with a group of people. In both cases, it's very, very powerful. We're going to do some chanting now. I think that this class, mostly nobody could understand what I was saying, and they stayed as long as they could, but now they're all going away, so we've defeated our purpose. We wanted them to be in Artik and take prasad, and now they're left. So I'm going to stop here, and we'll just do a little chanting until Artik, singing. I wanted Srinidhi to speak because he could have spoken the local language, but he thought it important that we speak in English for some reason. So, okay. So we can do some bhajans now. In 5 minutes, the offering will be done, and we'll have Artik. Gaur Premanande Haribo. I think in the future, we're really going to have to take this into consideration, you know?
Also this month, a lot of people are traveling.
Huh?
A lot of people are traveling this month.
Oh, yeah. 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 I think we'll have a lot of our local people here next Sunday, though. Sunday is a very big day. It's Gurudev's disappearance day. And the appearance day of Srila Maharaj. But we need to find out whether we should prepare for anything for New Year's also. I haven't gotten any feedback yet. I don't want to do a whole big thing unless we have a strong commitment from a lot of people.
Good point.
And if they don't want to commit, I understand that, but, you know. Okay, so, you want to sing it tonight? And I'll round up, maybe Gopinath would like to do it. Do you want to sing Artik, or should I get somebody else?
Yeah.
Jordan, Gopinath.